Have you ever felt like you've hit rock bottom? Like the world has pulled the rug out from under you, and you're just free-falling with no safety net? I know that feeling all too well. Imagine this: it's your 40th birthday. You think you have it all figured out. A stable job you've dedicated over a decade to, a loving family with 2 amazing kids, a mortgage, the whole 9 yards. Then, in a single, cold, impersonal email, it's all gone. Your position has been eliminated. Just like that, fired at 40. That was me. My name is Alex, and just a few years ago, that single sentence sent my life into a tailspin. The company I'd given my best years to decided I was just a number on a spreadsheet, an expense to be cut. The panic was immediate and suffocating. How was I going to pay the mortgage? Put food on the table for my kids? The shame was even worse. I felt like a complete failure. My partner tried to be supportive, but I could see the worry in their eyes, and it just twisted the knife deeper. My savings, barely enough to last a few months, if we were lucky. I was broke, jobless, and terrified. For weeks, I just went through the motions. I'd send out resumes during the day, plastering on a brave face for my family, but inside, I was crumbling. The rejections piled up, or worse, just silence. Overqualified, they'd say. Or not the right fit. It felt like the world was screaming at me that I was washed up, that my time was over. I spent countless nights staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with a million what-ifs. What if we lose the house? What if I can't provide for my kids? The weight of it all was crushing. I was at the lowest point of my entire life, convinced I had nothing left to offer. One particularly bleak afternoon, after another rejection email, I was just sitting in my car, unable to even drive home and face my family. My daughter had a school project on entrepreneurs, and she'd been asking me about what I wanted to be when I grew up. The irony was painful. Here I was, a grown-up, with no idea what to do. Then, I remembered a dream I'd buried long ago, a passion I'd put on the back burner for the sake of a stable career. I used to love building websites. Back when the internet was still the Wild West. I was good at it, too. I loved the creativity, the problem-solving, the thrill of creating something from nothing. But life happened. A steady paycheck seemed more responsible than a risky passion project. Sitting there in that car, with nothing left to lose, a tiny spark ignited in the darkness. What if this wasn't the end, but a forced beginning? What if being fired was the universe's not-so-subtle way of pushing me off the cliff so I could finally learn to fly? It was a terrifying thought, but it was also the first glimmer of hope I'd felt in months. I decided right then and there that I wouldn't let a corporation define my worth. I was more than a job title. It was time to bet on myself. That night, instead of scrolling through job boards, I dusted off my old coding books. I dove into online courses, learning everything that had changed in the world of web design and digital marketing. The internet had evolved, and so would I. I stayed up late, fueled by cheap coffee and a desperate hunger to build something of my own. I told my family my plan. It was risky, I admitted, but the alternative waiting for someone else to give me a chance felt even riskier. To my surprise, they were my biggest cheerleaders. My kids even thought it was cool that their dad was building things on the computer. I started small. I reached out to local businesses, the corner bakery, the family-owned hardware store, and offered to build them a simple, effective website for a fraction of what big agencies charged. My first client was a local florist. Her website was a decade old and didn't work on phones. I poured my heart into that project, not just building the site, but helping her understand how to use it to get more orders. I charged her just a few $100s. When she called me a week later, ecstatic that her online orders had tripled, I felt a rush of pride I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't about the money, it was about the impact. I had created real value. That one success story became my portfolio. Word of mouth is a powerful thing in a small community. Soon, I had more work than I could handle alone. I was working 16-hour days, but it didn't feel like work. It felt like I was building my own lifeboat, plank by plank. I wasn't just building websites, I was building relationships. I learned about my clients' businesses, their struggles, their dreams, and I realized my true value wasn't just in coding, but in helping other small business owners succeed in the digital world. I wasn't just a web designer, I was a digital partner. This shift in mindset was everything. I stopped seeing myself as a freelancer, desperate for gigs, and started seeing myself as a business owner providing solutions. I developed packages that included not just a website, but social media management, email marketing, and search engine optimization. I wasn't just selling a product, I was selling a result: more customers and more revenue for my clients. This allowed me to raise my prices, to charge based on the value I was providing, not the hours I was working. The income started to grow, first trickling in, then flowing. We paid off our credit card debt. The constant knot of anxiety in my stomach began to loosen. The journey wasn't a straight line up. There were setbacks. A client who disappeared without paying, a project that went horribly wrong and cost me money to fix. Moments of self-doubt still crept in. But this time, it was different. Every challenge was a lesson, not a death sentence. When a client bailed, I learned to implement better contracts and upfront deposits. When a project failed, I learned new technical skills and better project management. I was no longer an employee waiting for instructions. I was the captain of my own ship, learning to navigate the storms. I was becoming more resilient, more creative, and more confident than I had ever been in my corporate job. The turning point came about 3 years in. I had a long waiting list of clients and was hitting a ceiling on my own time. The thought of hiring someone was scary. It meant new responsibilities, more overhead, but I knew if I wanted to grow, I couldn't do it all myself. I took the leap and hired my first team member, a young, talented designer who shared my passion. Then I hired a project manager. Building a team was the best decision I ever made. It freed me up to focus on the big picture strategy, client relationships, and growing the business. We weren't just Alex's web design anymore. We became a real digital agency. By my 45th birthday, exactly 5 years after I was fired, I sat down to review my company's finances and my personal net worth. The numbers on the screen were surreal. I looked at them, checked them again, and then just sat there in stunned silence. I was a millionaire. The business was thriving. We had a team of 10 people, and we were helping dozens of businesses grow. We had moved into a bigger house. My kids were in great schools. We were not just stable, we were financially free. And it all started on the worst day of my life. Looking back, getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was a brutal, painful gift. It forced me to rediscover a part of myself I had forgotten. It taught me that security is unfound in a paycheck from a company that sees you as disposable. True security comes from your own skills, your own resilience, and your courage to build something for yourself. If you're out there right now, feeling lost, like you've hit rock bottom, I want you to hear this. Your rock bottom can be the solid foundation on which you build your empire. That setback might just be the setup for your greatest comeback. Don't be afraid to bet on yourself. You are far more capable than you know. Thanks for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more.